Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football, continuing to take a look at some of our favorite transfer portal classes as we head into the 2023 season. Dill, we were talking the other day, a sneaky, really solid portal class. Sam Pittman and the Arkansas Razorbacks bringing in 18 total transfers, a really good mix of guys, right? You have some older, experienced guys who you know what you're getting. You have some guys who flashed at some lower levels of college football. Then you get guys like Jaheim Singletary coming in, former 5-stars with plenty of eligibility left. Sam Pittman had some holes in this roster, whether it was transfer portal, whether it was sending guys to the NFL draft. And I thought he did a really good job addressing some of those needs, but the core remains the same. Like KJ Jefferson's back, Rocket Sanders is coming back. This is a team that is dangerous in the SEC. Excited to talk about it now before we get into it again. Just want to say thank you to you guys, just the support you guys have shown. We talked to Jaheim Singletary about 2 months ago. A ton of support from the Razorback fans. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Again, can't thank you guys enough for all the support you guys have shown. Dill, I'm going to kick it off to you. Taking a look at this transfer portal class, what do you like the most about it here?
I think what Arkansas really did that, again, if you're a team at that level, you just have to, is when you have a weakness as glaring as what they had in the secondary, that was preventing them from being a team that I think would have been very competitive in a lot of games they played. That set them back in terms of what they could do. I mean, to give up that many yards to a team like BYU is just, it's unacceptable. And that secondary was so bad. And that's frankly where I think they came out with the biggest wins, if you will, in the portal. I mean, Walcott's a really good player. Jaheim Singletary, ultra good player.
Former 5-star
player, at least. You don't necessarily know what you're getting, but you know you're getting a guy who really has some talent.
Yeah, you look at Arkansas, and again, even going back to week 1 against Cincinnati, like there were guys open that Ben Bryant, the quarterback for Cincinnati, just missed. Like this was a glaring hole. You gave up almost 300 yards per game through the air. Sam Pittman sees this, says, hey, we got to address it. And because of injuries, they had some guys that just did not belong playing SEC football in that secondary. And you look at who they have now in this room, you feel a lot better about where the secondary is. Again, looking at a guy like Dwight McGlothern, who Dill, you and I, we both have him on our draft board for 2024. You love what you have coming back in him, but you get a guy now, Walcott, who's played a lot of football for one of the best defensive-minded head coaches in the game in Dave Aranda. Leonardo Johnson also coming over from Baylor. You know those guys are going to be well coached. Both of them have played a lot of football. And then you throw in kind of the lotto ticket there. Jaheim Singletary, former 5-star from the 2022 class, hits the portal. That might have been Arkansas's biggest win because you're getting a guy who is coming into his second year of college football. He's long, he's athletic and big. There's a lot there to mold into a very, very good SEC-level cornerback in the future and possibly even this year.
And then, honestly, they fill in the rest of the defense, and they certainly had a little bit of turnover, but adding a couple guys in the linebacker spot, a couple guys in the defensive line, especially adding some size in Tank Booker. And they just didn't feel like they had a ton of that, and they play that 3-man defensive line. It'll probably be helpful to have a 320, 330-pound guy in Tank Booker, who was very productive at Maryland, came over, one of their bigger gets, obviously.
Yeah, Anthony Booker was a really good get. And you lose a guy like Bumper Pool, you lose a guy like Drew Sanders, who kind of just did it all for them at that linebacker spot. Like Jaheim Thomas, not a bad get. Antonio Greer, not a bad get. So you're kind of retooling guys at all 3 levels of the defense, quite frankly, that you feel really good about. And again, I think this defense, because of what they did in the transfer portal, is going to be vastly improved from what it was last year.
And I'm excited to see Trudge and Jeff Cote. I feel like there's a lot of talent or potential to get out of him. I thought he had a really flash good moments at Missouri. It just maybe didn't put the numbers up he kind of thought he could, but obviously a pro build, has a lot of talent. I just want to see him play really good because he's got the look to him like that.
Yeah, and going into last year, he was the guy for Missouri instead of Isaiah McGuire. And obviously, as that season played out, Isaiah McGuire kind of became that guy for Mizzou. But Jeff Coates a good player. Arkansas obviously plays him. Saw Jeff Coates and said, hey, that would be a nice guy. And he has some versatility. He can play on the inside a little bit because he's big. But he also can play outside tackles. I think he's a perfect fit for what Arkansas wants to do on the defensive side of the ball. Flipping over the offensive side of the ball, this is also where they had a lot of turnover. Again, I said KJ Jefferson and Rocket Sanders remain the same, but losing Hazelwood, losing Matt Landers, former transfer portal guy coming from Toledo, let's start with the pass catchers because they kind of did what they did last year and go get Matt Landers, who is from Toledo now. Asterisk there because he did transfer to Toledo from Georgia. But like they're going out and getting some big body pass catchers who are coming from lower levels of college football. And even if you see some of these guys like Tyrone Broden, like Andrew Armstrong or Isaac Tesla as lottery tickets, you got 3 lottery tickets who are very interesting. One of them's probably going to hit, if not 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Tyrone Broden, obviously at Bowling Green, not necessarily the cream of the crop at competition, but super productive. And then you're right, you just have big athletic players everywhere else. And I mean, again, if those guys can kind of make that jump from those really small schools into the SEC, and they have the athleticism, the traits, if you will, to do it. And that obviously still remains to be seen whether it's going to put it together and play at that SEC level. But you got the potential, and again, Arkansas has done okay with those guys in the past, as you saw last year.
So when I was talking Jaheim Singletary a couple months ago, some of the Arkansas fans were like, "Joe, go check out Isaac Tesla's film or highlights. Like this dude with the ball in the air is a monster." And all of these guys are big. They're good with the football in the air and they're fast. Like that's a good recipe for it to translate at the next level of SEC football, I should say, not next level of the NFL. And again, even you could throw in a guy in Guns coming from North Texas who's a younger cat, a little bit of an undersized tight end, kind of a matchup nightmare. Very similar to what Trey Knox was for Arkansas last year. So you lose Trey Knox to the transfer portal. You bring in a younger cat in Varkey's Guns who realistically probably doing a lot of the same things that Trey Knox did for Arkansas last year.
Yeah, and again, you look like Arkansas certainly had a little bit of turnover, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but you at least replaced it. I think the defense got really good. The offense, you replaced what you needed to replace. So it's like, again, it is a little unproven coming into this portal from just given the guys they brought in at the pass catching units and coming from small schools or being younger guys. But again, super talented and just a bunch of 6'3" guys who can move.
But to be honest, outside of Matt Landers and Jaden Hazelwood, who both like kind of weren't necessarily the most, I would say, consistent players for Arkansas, they flashed. You didn't really have that much consistency from the pass catchers anyways last year. Like, again, you talk about what this offense is going to do next year. Like, you have Bo Limmer coming back. You have Sam Pittman, Def Taxes, and a good offensive line. You have some guys coming back, but you know that's going to be a well-coached unit. The bones of this offense is still going to be around the football. Rocket Sanders legitimately might be one of the best. I think he's a top 3 running back in the country. You're seeing him in first-round mock drafts. You obviously have a KJ Jefferson who doesn't get enough respect that he deserves. Like, you take a look at his stats, 68% completion percentage, 24 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. You know what he can do with the ball in his hands as an athlete. Like, this Arkansas team, I think you're feeling really good about where they are on the offensive side of the ball. You add some pass catchers who, again, albeit unproven, have some serious juice to be playmakers at the SEC level. I think you're really excited about what Arkansas is bringing.
Add some depth finally at quarterback. I mean, because when he went down last year, KJ, that is, they just like weren't good enough behind them. It's like Hornsby, Fortin, just not playing any consistency. And in KJ Jefferson's a guy who takes a beating. I mean, he's not like the fastest guy in the world, but he runs hard. He's powerful. It's like if you need to set a drive or something here and there, and obviously a couple of games last year, at least now you got a serviceable guy who will, if Arkansas is as good as what we maybe think they are around him, like they can go win a game against Missouri or a mid-level SEC school.
I can't believe I was going to just like pass up Jacoby Griswold because I think that was one of the more intriguing gets in the transfer portal because one, you mentioned it first. KJ Jefferson, he takes a beating. Like that's just how his game is. And you're not going to say, KJ, you got to slide more. It's not his game. His game is to be a bulldozer, to be a 18-wheeler running the football.
Yeah, physical runner.
When he had to come out of the game, you're totally right. Like Malik Hornsby, phenomenal athlete, extremely fast, but does not run the same way as KJ Jefferson. Cade Fortin just, kind of straight up stunk. You obviously just had a quarterback kicked off your team. You didn't have any young quarterbacks that were even getting developed really. And so you go get a guy like Jacoby Griswold who lost a quarterback competition to Drake May. So he might be actually way better than most people think just because he was quarterback 2 at UNC. Like he might be, and it was, mind you, like that quarterback competition went into camp. Like that was not like a Drake May is the obvious starter. So if you're competing with Drake May for a starting quarterback spot, you're probably a pretty damn good player. But you mentioned it best. He's basically a KJ Jefferson clone. I mean, he's 6'1", but he's 230. Like, this dude is really big. So when KJ might, if he needs to go off, like, you're getting Jacoby Griswold, who is a very similar player. The offense doesn't really change. And then when KJ goes to the NFL, you're looking at Jacoby Griswold being the heir to the throne of this Arkansas offense.
Yeah, and again, that's kind of something you kind of maybe lose sight of. But this transfer portal is not just for this year, especially when you bring a guy like who's a little bit of a younger player, and he'll be there for a little bit. And yeah, KJ Jefferson will probably be gone this year, but you do have your next guy, and that's just like, again, that's part of it. I get it. It's like some of these guys are 1-year players, but a lot of them in Arkansas's case are going to be in the future, and especially a guy like Singletary is certainly going to be a probably big part of what they're.
Well, that's the crazy part about the transfer portal in this day and age is, like, the transfer portal is loaded with talent, whether it's young talent who are studs out of high school and just maybe need to change of scenery from their first spot at college, or guys who've played 5 years are looking to play their 6th year because of the COVID year, and are guys who contributed for a long time and looking to take a step up. Arkansas took 18 guys, and they took guys where they needed to. So we go to the transfer portal grade. I'm giving them a solid B, B+, and the only reason I'm not going A, A- is because they did lose some guys in the transfer portal too. But I thought Sam Pittman did a phenomenal job getting really good players at the positions they needed to address. And if you're a Razorbacks fan, like, we'll get more into it during our summer scouting. So guys, stay tuned for that as we kind of take a deeper dive into these programs. You're feeling pretty good about where this team stands heading into 2023. Again, appreciate you guys checking us out. Wanted to keep this short, but talk a little bit about what the Razorbacks did in the transfer portal, because I think a lot of people are sleeping on it. Appreciate you guys. Again, if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later.